or throughout history, there appears to be a number of strange and unexplainable phenomena centered around religious gatherings and events. After further studies, some of these seem impossible to explain. Additionally, many of these strange, mysterious religious events seem to point to the idea that perhaps our world is far stranger than we ever realized. Perhaps one of the most famous ones is that of the miracle of the sun. Back on the 13th of October in 1917, there was an immense gathering of individuals located in Fatima, Portugal. This was after they heard the accounts of 3 shepherd children, and after telling their story many were interested. Before this point, the children had claimed that they had seen the Virgin Mary and witnessed her miracles, preaching the gospel of Christianity and gaining their own following. Interestingly, the storm that struck Fatima on the 13th of October, 1917 did not prevent people from visiting Fatima for the promise of a miracle. The people of this region were not sure of what was going on, but they were certain that something out of the ordinary was bound to occur that day. The story of the miracle of the sun started with the 3 children detailing their encounter with the Virgin Mary. This was while they were making their way back home. Interestingly, this apparition allegedly said to one of the children it was going to return on day 13 for the next couple of months. After telling them this message, it said the mysterious being vanished. The children narrated the incident to their parents and the villagers, and the sensational report spread throughout the whole of Portugal and attracted a huge crowd. It's been estimated by researchers that a crowd of between 70,000 and 100,000 people gathered at the foretold scene. This was despite harsh weather conditions. As promised, though, something was seen that day, and many believe they were witnessing a genuine miracle. Not every witness, however, reported the same thing. Some said they saw the sun dancing around in the sky. Others reported seeing the sun falling towards the earth in a zigzag motion, which caused the fear of an explosion as a result of the sun's collision with the earth. Some said they saw brilliant colors spinning from the sky in a pinwheel pattern, and the rest reported seeing nothing out of the ordinary. Today, many churches have said the event was real, and that the Virgin Mary made herself present that day. Even a researcher by the name of John D. Margie, of whom spent over 7 years compiling over 100,000 reports, found the event impossible to deny, and evident that something truly strange had occurred in front of the crowds gathered. Interestingly, some have suggested the object in question was actually an unidentified flying object, and that it would make it one of the largest mass UFO sightings ever seen. This was backed up by the descriptions of the people that witnessed the anomaly, and some researchers have said the object in question sounds more like a UFO than the sun, further saying the sun can't physically jump around in the sky, so what we're left with is a mysterious object disabled to travel around in the sky at extreme speeds. Another interesting religious account is that of Our Lady of Ziton. It was on the 2nd of April, 1968, just after Egypt had lost a 6-day battle to Israel, resulting in the lost lives of over 2,000 troops in Israel occupying the Sinai Peninsula, when a Muslim mechanic suddenly saw a young woman standing on top of St. Mary's Orthodox Church in Ziton. At the time, he was working close to the church. He thought she was on the verge of doing something she may regret, and so ran to help her. A group of onlookers gathered there and saw her, but she quickly disappeared. Virgin Mary first appeared to Father Constantine Musa, a priest at St. Mary's Church, and when she spoke to him, he fainted. Because of his humility, Father Constantine did not reveal this visitation until days before he passed away in 1984. He told the chairman of the committee that the Blessed Mary had talked to him about the nature of her visit, asking him to be prepared. He had no idea that millions of people were going to visit the church. At least 1 million Egyptians and many other people saw a luminous figure of a woman on top of St. Mary's Church in Ziton. This was between 1968 and 1971. The apparitions mostly happened on feast days, lasting several minutes, with the longest one lasting for 9 hours. Many witnesses remember seeing Mary holding an olive branch, which symbolized the peace that Middle Easterns desperately needed. Some saw Mary bowing before her cross, blessing the crowds and walking across the domes of the church. At some point, a crowd of around 250,000 people witnessed one of the apparitions. In the early hours of the 13th of April, a photographer overcame the sensation of immobility, which prevented most of the people from taking pictures. He was able to snap some photographs of the events, and interestingly, after doing so, this helped an injured arm. It was reported that after taking the photographs and seeing the apparition, he felt much better. This was later confirmed as true by doctors. The witnesses to these apparitions also reported seeing luminous doves during the night, with flashes of bright colors reminiscing the miracle of the sun in Fatima. Other people saw Mary with Saint Joseph, or as she cradled Jesus at around 12 years old. Most remember this scent of incense in Zaytun. Christian medical professionals confirmed many miraculous healings occurring in Zaytun between 1968 and 1971, a period that saw numerous conversions. Unlike in Fatima, many remained silent in all of the apparitions in Zaytun. The authorities in Egypt ordered that the unusual events be investigated after observing the growing crowds. They, however, saw no projectors, light sources, or any other devices that would be intended to trick the public. This was after searching a 15-mile radius of the church. Photos of these apparitions were published in various Egyptian newspapers, with video footage being broadcast on the news. Europe and America probably preoccupied with other events, but not very interested in the apparitions, but featured an article under the title Visions of the Virgin Mary reported in Cairo. The church recognized the apparitions, and the Pope said this was a positive and genuine account. The Vatican, however, did not give any statement on the apparitions' authenticity since they happened in an Orthodox church. Many believe the apparitions to be Mary's comeback to Zaytun, as they claim this being one of the Holy Family's home. A landowner who was an Orthodox in Zaytun claimed that in 1918, Mary came to him in a dream and asked him to build a church in Zaytun in her honor. It was exactly 50 years after the stream when the apparition started. Zaytun was not the only place that witnessed Mary's apparition. Many have reported seeing Mary with some elements of Zaytun like the scent of incense. Mary walking on a church roof and luminous stoves being sighted. Whether a person believes in the apparitions at Zaytun or not is a matter of personal faith. Suggested evidence, however, exists in their favor, as hundreds of thousands of people saw these mysterious beings. Another interesting account is Our Lady of Warwick, in which the Virgin Mary was also reported to have manifested overhead the Church of the Virgin Mary located in the city of Giza in Egypt. Again during the sighting, the first to view the event was that of Muslim neighbors across the streets that reportedly saw a large orb, and this mysterious light was hovering above the church. As residents were watching the mysterious light, it started to take the form of a female given the previous sightings back in 1968. The event of Our Lady of Warwick that occurred in 2009 were quickly compared to past sightings and was instantly believed to have been the return of the Virgin Mary's apparitions. Additionally, a number of high-quality photographs were taken of the event that show in great detail a large glowing white apparition of a woman and that she appeared over the dome of the church. Today, these marine apparition sightings and gathered proof continue to be ignored by skeptics as no reasonable explanations have come forward. Interestingly, it's not known what these apparitions were or what they mean, but the people that attended these events are very sure of what they saw. Many of these accounts match each other, and in these cases we do have photographic evidence, something that doesn't normally happen when we talk about these types of subjects. So the big question is, what do these photographs show? Is this proof that there's something in the afterlife and that people are able to come back if necessary? Critics, however, have said that generators could have been used to create these apparitions, and that it was used during these events to get people's attention. However, as mentioned, the government at the time did investigate the claims and do research in the local area. They found nothing that could suggest the Lady of Warwick was being created by a source of light. They searched a large area and found nothing. Back in 1966, a mysterious event happened that left many people wanting answers. 2 men were found to be motionless. However, this case would take a mysterious turn when they were found with strange objects. This case has yet to be explained, and over the last few decades various theories have been put forward. The men's plans and deaths were odd enough. This was because they were both in good health and not old. Not just that, but both of the men had passed away together, and within a matter of minutes. Due to the objects and circumstances around what happened, this case has become known as the Leadmass case. On the 17th of August 1966, 2 electronics repairmen left their town and went to search for supplies. These were thought to be for one of their cars and for work. They said they had the money on them to buy these items. After this, the men decided to stop off at a bar to pick up some water. The bartender who was on shift said they picked up on the fact that one of the men named Miguel wanted to get going. The bartender went on to say they both seemed short for time and that they kept checking their watches. It was noted that this was the last time anyone would see the men alive. 3 days later, the men were discovered on Vintem Hill in Rio de Janeiro. The police were then called and they began an investigation. However, the investigation took a strange turn when it was discovered the men had strange items on them. It was reported that both men were dressed in smart suits and had waterproof coats on. Both men had lead masks with no holes in. There was also water bottles, a notebook, and a towel. As if this isn't strange enough, the notebook just confused the investigators even more. Contained the following: 1630 biotech replays 1830 swallowed capsules after effect, protect metals, wait for mass signal. One theory that was put forward was that the men had the lead mask because they were expecting radioactivity. However, later tests showed that no radiation was detected near the area. The encrypted message has thrown investigators off for years. They have no idea what the men are referring to. Some have suggested they're doing some kind of business meeting and something went wrong. But the way they said protect metals and wait for my signal has thrown many people off. Another theory is that they were trying to contact extraterrestrials. It was reported that strange lights were seen in the skies a few days earlier, and this could have been why the men did what they did. Another theory is that the men took the pills to try and contact aliens telepathically. However, the diary says to me that at a range place, a range would mean they'd already spoken to someone prior to this event. This has made some think that whoever they were meeting may have lured them into an ambush. The diary entry along with the mysterious details haven't helped this case, and over the years many theories have been put forward. Interestingly, another theory has surfaced, and this was by a friend of the two men. They said the two men were actually members of a group of scientific spiritualists. The men were said to have tried to contact extraterrestrials or spirits, and they tried to accomplish this by making some type of psychedelic. They thought that during the encounter there would be a blinding light, and that's why they created the metal masks, to help shield their eyes from this large amount of light. It's then said they took too many psychedelics and ended up passing away. This is, however, just a theory and doesn't prove this was the cause of their demise. Interestingly, on the nights they passed away, locals in the area did report seeing unidentified flying objects. It's hard to pinpoint the exact shapes of the craft seen, but it's said they range from glowing orbs to silent circular crafts. One of the witnesses said they'd seen blinking orbs in the area a few nights before the men passed away, and that these odd-looking crafts would scan the ground and then shoot up in the sky. They said they hadn't seen any object or craft that was able to move this fast, and all the time they were in the sky they were pulsate. Another resident said they saw similar objects, and one of these looked like an eyeball, and that it appeared to be searching the nearby area. This resident said they couldn't explain what it was, and that it was too small to be anything made by a human. It's been put forward by some amateur researchers that this is why the men tried to contact extraterrestrials. They had seen the crafts and tried to think up of a way of being able to contact them. Reports showed there was no sign of a struggle and there was no injuries on the men's body. As of right now, it's anyone's guess as to what happened to the men, and it remains one of the most mysterious unsolved casings. Mysterious case is that of Linda Porter. Though the report wasn't written until 1991, the case of Linda Porter and her abduction encounters that took place back in 1963 helped to paint an even more important picture of that alien intervention and abduction. The story was first told by that of famed reporter and regional Emmy winner Linda Moulton Hill, of whom was contacted by Linda Porter after receiving a package through the mail containing a written letter and drawings from Linda Porter. The letter informed the journalist of her abduction that took place back in 1963 in California. According to Linda Porter, she had been abducted by gray aliens when she was a young child, only roughly 15 years old, and experienced experiments that she referred to as soul transfers. Linda Porter claimed that as she was taken up into an extraterrestrial spacecraft, she had seen a large praying mantis-like creature that could communicate with her telepathically and detail a vast amount of information surrounding the universe. Shortly after this confrontation, she claimed to have switched bodies into that of a clone body via a soul transfer. She was told by the extraterrestrial beings that her body had a bad heart, and that she would have soon passed away had they not intervened, but that her new body would be far healthier and stronger for her to use. Shortly after this transfer, she witnessed a number of other abductees in large ventral containers of whom were being studied by the extraterrestrials, as the nature of a human soul was quite unknown to the extraterrestrials inhabiting the spacecraft. Additionally, Linda Porter claimed to have seen a number of surrounding gray aliens that stood beside the massive praying mantis-like aliens and seemed to have been operating as a hive mind as they communicated telepathically. This behavior led her to believe that the function of their civilization is based primarily off telepathic communication to prevent misinterpretation of far more complex ideas. No further information surrounding her abductions could be known, and outside of her audio cassette tapes and drawn images, no other data can be gathered. As of today, it's gone down as one of the most mysterious cases involving abductions. Another mysterious case is that of Dorothy Eady. Regarded as one of the most compelling cases of modern-day reincarnation, Dorothy Eady was a London-born woman who worked to solve ancient Egyptian mysteries and secrets, and was regarded as a legitimate resource used by Egyptologists and famed archaeologists around the world. Dorothy was born in London in 1904 and made the claim that she was the living reincarnation of Amseti, a high priestess selected from birth to be the keeper of the Abada's temple of Seti. What's so compelling about her account is that, since birth, Dorothy could fluently speak and read the Egyptian language. This was more than odd given the fact that the Egyptian language had long been extinct, and that no one currently alive was aware of how it sounded. Even those who had cracked the code behind the language in the hieroglyphs were uncertain of exactly how the pronunciations of certain words were handled. That was until Dorothy systematically taught and explained the language in vast detail that worked to confirm a lot of the long-standing theories, as well as filling in old holes and mysteries. Egyptologists would even later go on to prove the legitimacy of Dorothy's fluency in Egyptian, after they began studying neighboring native languages that arose and evolved from Egyptians in the area, and found their slang and accents to directly mimic certain sounds, words, and pronunciations by Dorothy. This wasn't the height of her accomplishments, however, as she would later go on to help uncover many locations of ancient Egyptian sites buried beneath the sand, discover secret chambers, and assist with the recovery of long-forgotten and hidden ancient Egyptian artifacts. In 1979, the New York Times wrote a piece on Dorothy that regarded her as the Western world's most intriguing and convincing modern case histories of reincarnation. Police stories are often very interesting. This is mainly because they get into situations that many of us don't. However, what happens when a police sergeant encounters something they can't explain? This is what happened to an unnamed off-duty police sergeant that was driving along a road near Silbury Hill. Going back in 2009, the officer was traveling close to Silbury Hill when something caught his attention. The officer in question wasn't someone who believed in out-there topics and would use logic to explain events. However, even this was hard for him to believe. On the right-hand side was a large crop field, and in the middle he could see 3 large beings. Thinking it could have been trespassers or people up to no good, he decided to get out of his car and investigate what was going on. However, as he approached the field, he soon realized these large beings were unlike anything he had seen before. The officer reported he was a few meters away from the beings and could make out a lot of detail. At first, they didn't notice him approaching them as they were crouched on the ground inspecting something. He couldn't see what they were looking at, but whatever it was, it caught their attention as they were studying the ground for several minutes. Interestingly, after stepping closer to the beings, the officer could see they was inspecting a crop circle. Interestingly, crop circles around Silbury have been quite common in recent years, and a recent study showed that the majority of reported crop circles do come from England. There are those that believe crop circles are made by extraterrestrials, while others believe they're created by humans with bones. Interestingly, private researchers have done their own studies on these formations and have found some interesting consistencies with various crop circles. Various anomalies have been discovered in alleged genuine crop circles, as compared to those made by humans. These anomalies were not the same as those that people had made and couldn't be replicated with a bond. One such anomaly is that the crops themselves that have allegedly not been made by humans look different to those at hand. The human-made crop circles have bent crumbs, and this is due to the force that is applied to create them. The other crop circles, however, were not bent, but instead appeared to be softened, with one researcher saying it appeared as if some energy had passed through the crop and made it limp. Other studies had been carried out which include that of soil samples being taken, and in some instances there was much higher levels of radiation. These studies were carried out by independent sources and funded by those said people. Interestingly, residents saw a craft land in a crop circle several decades ago, and this was close to Rendlesham Forest. Once again, soil samples had been taken, and there was an obvious sign that something had left behind a large amount of radiation in the surrounding area. Interestingly, this craft had been seen a few years before the famous Rendlesham Forest incident. The Rendlesham Forest incident happened back in December of 1980. There was a series of reports made by credible witnesses that detailed the event of an unidentified flying object that had reportedly landed in the forest, and was at the center of a number of unexplainable phenomena throughout the area. At around 3 a.m. on the 26th of December, a security patrol at the Royal Air Force Base Woodridge saw what they described as bright lights descending nearby the Rendlesham Forest. The security patrol described the lights as being that of a downed aircraft and so quickly rushed to investigate their sighting, working to follow its general direction in the forest. Once they arrived within the sight of the aircraft, the men took notice of the fact that the animals nearby, native to that region of the forest, appeared to be screeching and going into a panic frenzy. The men described what they saw as a glowing object, metallic in appearance surrounded with attached and brightly colored lights. One of the members of the security patrol, Sergeant Jim Peniston, later wrote in his memo that the team had encountered a craft of unknown origin, which only helped confirm the sighting of an unidentified flying object. Going back to the officer's encounter, he could see that the beings observing the crop circles were wearing white clothes or white overalls. He could tell the beings were tall and estimated they were between 7 and 9 foot and had blonde hair. As he approached closer, he started to hear what he said was a low static sound. This surprised him as he didn't know what was going on, and shortly after this noise started, the whole field started to vibrate and make the same noise. After this, the tall beings noticed the officer, and he then said he ran out of the field as fast as he could. Interestingly, an out there theory that's been put forward is that the beings were somehow able to put a shield of some sorts around the crop field. So if anyone got close to them or entered the field, the beings would know about it, almost acting like some kind of advanced alarm system. After driving home, the event would play on the officer's mind. He then decided to contact paranormal investigators in the hopes they would be able to get to the bottom of what happened. It was then reported by locals that this site was a hotspot for unidentified flying objects, and it was almost as if these objects were observing what was happening around the crop circle. After the researchers couldn't give much information on what he'd experienced, he decided to finally approach the Wiltshire police station and tell them about what had happened. However, they said they couldn't help and didn't want to comment on the matter, further saying it was a personal matter because the sergeant was off duty at the time of the incident. The paranormal experts did say they believed what the sergeant saw and that his story was very consistent. What's interesting about this is the connections some have made to Stonehenge. Silbury Hill is only around 20 miles from Stonehenge, and as many are aware, some of the UFO community believe that the ancient structure was built by an advanced civilization. Stonehenge has proven to be quite a mystery to anyone who even attempts to try to understand its construction and the techniques behind it. Not only are the large blocks used too massive that even modern means of construction would fail in regards to establishing the structure, but the source of the blocks appears to have been carved from hundreds of miles away, which leads many researchers to question the ability of transporting such large stones to the area. To add to this bizarre strangeness of the formation of Stonehenge, it's been discovered that the structure appears to have been built with astonishing precision in its placement and carved creation. Up to this point, though, we don't have any solid proof this event happened, and we have to go by what the officer said. Interestingly, it seems that other police officers have had run-ins with equally bizarre beings. Definitely seen as one of the most comical cryptids to have ever been reported is that of the Loveland Frogman. The Loveland Frogman is a cryptid that has only been reported around that of the town of Loveland located in the state of Ohio. According to witness reports, the Loveland Frogman is that of a large humanoid frog that stands about 4 feet tall and is capable of running as a biped. The creature was believed to have been first witnessed back in 1955, with two other frog-like men described as having lavery skin, webbed hands, and webbed feet. Though the legends of the frogman would eventually die shortly after this sighting, with scattered reports coming in over the years being completely disregarded, this would change in 1972 when the Loveland Police Department would come face to face with a startling creature. According to the Loveland Police Department, police officers spotted a strange creature running across the road that fits the description of the Loveland Frogman. After following the creature, they began to realize it was not a hoax and soon opened fire on the creature. However, it is said the officers missed and the creature was able to escape down an embankment. The officers did get a good look at the creature and described it as a large iguana-like animal that was missing its tail, standing 4 feet tall and running on its hind legs. After this encounter, renewed interest in the creature would begin to surge back into popularity, with many others coming forward with their story of their encounters with the strange creature over the years. This would even lead to a musical being made titled Hot Damn, It's the Loveland Frog back in 2014, making fun of the sightings and reaction to the Loveland Frogmen. In August of 2016, this hilarity would quickly turn into horror after a group of teenagers journeyed all over Loveland while playing the popular mobile game known as Pokemon Go. During their time journeying near Lake Isabella, they claimed to have seen a creature that was similar to a giant frog that began to stand on its hind legs and stare at them. This would lead the teens to run in fear as they believed the creature would soon begin to attack as it came closer. It seems that many groups were mocked when they talked about a knife planet. For the last few decades, the human race has increased its technology. What we thought was once impossible we're now doing. This can be seen in recent advancements of robotics and artificial intelligence. However, one thing we are focusing on is space. Interestingly, researchers and scientists have come forward and said that they've discovered something massive in our solar system, described an object as being large and lurking in the outer reaches past Neptune. Interestingly, although NASA are now coming forward and saying this, allegedly theorists who studied ancient maps and calendars have said that our ancient ancestors were aware of this object thousands of years ago. You may have heard about this planet before, and that's because it's made the news for allegedly being on a crash course with the Earth. This didn't happen, and it painted the whole Nibiru planet as being nothing more than a fictitious story. There's said to be 2 stances on this planet. The first being that there was indeed a group of people that thought this planet was going to make contact with the Earth. These were known as people who had alleged powers and were told that something massive was going to impact the Earth. And they were given the date of 2003 when the alleged planet would come into our solar system and wreak havoc on everything nearby. This didn't happen, so the date was moved to 2012, where once again nothing happened. Then there's another group that says ancient texts are pointed towards there being another planet that every so often makes itself known. And although some individuals have been mocked for believing in this, it seems that NASA are now backing up those claims. NASA have described it as being something large and that it's lurking in the far reaches of the solar system. Interestingly, recent studies have shown that whatever this object actually is having an effect on the Kuiper Belt rocks which can be found close to Neptune. This excited many, as for years now, there have been theories surrounding whether there was a mysterious Planet 9. And these recent revelations have proved there is something out there having effect on matter close by. Some astronomers have suggested this planet has around 5 to 6 times the mass of Earth. And this is because researchers are having a tough time seeing it. It's slow and tedious work as researchers currently don't know where to look. The planet will be very faint, and it's one of the reasons behind why it's so tough to pinpoint. Interestingly though, researchers have said the secrets behind this planet might be in some old records. According to a recent study, scientists have said that NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, also known as TESS, could be the place to look for this information, saying that in its records a satellite may have recorded details on the planet. One of the issues with this though is that TESS is used to look for planets way past our solar system. It does this by looking for and registering dips in the sky. This will tell us that a planet is orbiting around its star. This wouldn't happen for Planet 9 though, as it's much closer to our solar system and would be much harder to pick up on. With that being said, researchers noted that TESS is pointed at one particular part of the sky for a long period of time, and that there is a slight chance that Planet May 9 have passed by the satellite. Astronomers now have the lengthy task of looking through the data and seeing if anything was picked up on. NASA released the following statement about the object. In January 2015, Caltech astronomers Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown announced new research that provides evidence of a giant planet tracing on an unusual elongated orbit in the outer solar system. The prediction is based on detailed mathematical modeling and computer simulations, not direct observation. This large object could explain the unique orbits of at least 5 smaller objects discovered in the distant Kuiper belts. Jim Green, director of NASA's Planetary Science Division, said the following. The possibility of a new planet is certainly an exciting one for me as a planetary scientist, and for us all. This is not, however, the detection or discovery of a new planet. It's too early to say with certainty there's a so-called Planet 9. What we're seeing is an early prediction based on modeling from limited observations. It's the start of a process that could lead to an exciting result. Caltech scientists believe that planets May 9th have a mass around 10 times that of Earth and be similar in size to Uranus or Neptune. The predicted orbit is around 20 times farther from our Sun on average than Neptune, which orbits the Sun at an average distance of 2.8 billion miles. It would take this new planet between 10,000 and 20,000 years to make just one full orbit around the Sun, when Neptune completes an orbit roughly every 165 years. They explain the gravity of this potential planet might explain the unusual orbits of those Kuiper objects. Astronomers are now looking forward to the future and will start using powerful telescopes in the hopes of tracking down the object. The Caltech astronomers said the following: "We would love to find it, but we'd also be perfectly happy if someone else found it. That is why we're publishing this paper. We hope that other people are going to get inspired and start searching." Anytime we have an interesting idea like this, we always apply Carl Sagan's rule for critical thinking, which include independent confirmation of the facts, looking for alternate explanations, and encouraging scientific debate. If Planet 9 is out there, we'll find it together, or we'll determine an alternate explanation for the data that we've received so far. Now let's go and explore. The world of astronomy is filled with a number of classifications. These classifications help astronomers to better catalog and understand a celestial body when it's placed in its appropriate category. A number of these classifications include identifying a celestial body as a planet, a star, a terrestrial planet, a minor planet, a gas giant, or any other description that can help researchers to better understand their findings. That it's nearly impossible for researchers to categorize given its anomalous properties. Discovered back in 1979, El Spessaro was originally reported as being a minor planet, with the name of a minor planet's 1979, and was said to be inhabiting the asteroid belt located between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Interestingly, back in 1996, this hypothesis was soon challenged as images taken by astronomer Eric W. Elst and Gatto Pizarro noticed a minor planet as having a comet-like tail that pointed to the theory that perhaps the large body was that of a massive icy comet. Shortly after the images were taken, however, the long tail of the comet disappeared and the body returned to being that of a standard asteroid. This has led me to categorize the body as both an asteroid and a comet, until further analysis can be made. Currently, there is a project in the works expected to launch in 2024, with the mission of landing on the minor planet and uncovering its true nature to better understand the possible source of water for our planet Earth during the early formations. Another interesting discovery was made in the constellation Cygnus around 1470 light-years away, and it goes by the name of Tabby stars that continues to baffle scientists. Although physicists have known the stars existed for many decades now, it's been showing weird behavior in recent years. In May 2017, scientists started observing strange light fluctuations at Tabby star. These fluctuations continued throughout 2018. These were pointed out by a researcher named Tabith. Her nickname was Tabby, and so the star was named in her honor. The question is, what is going on at Tabby star? Some have theorized that it may be home to an alien civilization that possesses technology we cannot comprehend, while others have put forward the theory of it being just another star with a random natural process. Although physicists have been aware of this star for many years now, understanding its behavior has been something that's baffled the world's greatest minds. In May 2017, scientists could see that strange lights were being emitted from Tabby's star, And then throughout 2018, these light fluctuations increased. New research suggests that the fluctuations could be from an exum moon that was recently discovered. This was picked up on by researchers that were searching through old archival footage. Whilst throwing researchers off those how much this star dims, with scientists coming forward and saying that on some occasions it's dimmed by over 20%. NASA had this to say about their discovery. A new study using NASA's Spitzer and Swift missions suggests that the cause of the dimming over long periods is likely an uneven dust cloud moving around the star. This flies in the face of the alien megastructure idea and other more exotic speculations. Research has found less dimming in the infrared light from the star than its ultraviolet light. Any object larger than dust particles would dim all wavelengths of light equally when passing in front of Tabby's star. This pretty much rules out the alien megastructure theory, as that would not explain the wavelength-dependent dimming. We suspect instead there is a cloud of dust orbiting the star with roughly a 700-day orbital period. As of right now, more tests are currently being carried out on Tabby's star. Recent advancements in space have meant that astronomers are now able to pick up on small objects. NASA have said there's around 3,000 human-made satellites in working order around the Earth. However, if the debris of old and damaged satellites are taken into account, the number increases dramatically. Astronauts have reported that every so often they'll see fast objects fly past the International Space Station. Most of these can be explained and they turn out to be normal space debris. However, this isn't always the case. Going back in 2010, astronomers picked up on a mysterious object, and it was soon realized by the researchers that they were dealing with something strange. The astronauts described the object as being small and that it was traveling fast. The unidentified object passed by our planets on the 21st of May 2010. And in regards to distance, it came relatively close to our planet. The researchers estimated it was around 235,000 miles or 384,000 kilometers from our planet. It was then observed slowing down and passing by Earth. After researchers were able to lock onto the object, they could calculate its path through space. One thing they picked up on, though, is how it wasn't acting like an asteroid, and that, after taking photographs and analyzing them, the mystery object was only around the size of a bus. Scientists picked up on the fact that before it came close to our planet, it could be seen orbiting the sun. Paul Kodos, a scientist at NASA's Near-Earth Object Program, said the following: "The orbit of this object is very similar to that of the Earth, and one wouldn't expect an object to remain in this type of orbit for very long." It's not known what the object is, but some theories have been put forward and state that the object was actually a piece of space junk. Researchers have said, though, this isn't the last time we'll see this object, saying it's likely to make a return in 2036. There is also no worry of this object causing any damage to our planet. It's far too small and would burn up upon re-entry. Paul Kodos went on to say the following: "There is a 6% probability that 2010 KQ will enter our atmosphere over a 30-year period starting in 2036. More than likely, additional observations of the object will refine its orbit and impact possibilities. Even in the likely event that this object is heading for an impact with Earth, whether it's an asteroid or a rocket body, it's so small that it would disintegrate in the atmosphere and not cause harm on the ground. It's important that astronomers conduct further research on these objects when they're first picked up on. Detecting a celestial body early on is essential to understanding what its behavior is like. For example, back in 2018, we saw more than 91 near-miss hits of different asteroids of all sizes, with each one passing by our fragile blue planet. The scary thing is that out of the 91 asteroids that passed by us, only 30 of these asteroids were seen coming prior to their passing, and only 2 of those were discovered 1 year ahead of the near-miss event. This meant that for more than 89 of the asteroids nearly striking the Earth in 2018, only 2 of them could have been prevented with our current technology, showcasing just how threatening these large celestial bodies can be. Recently, an asteroid by the name of 2019 OK made headlines around the world. This wasn't because of its size, but rather its sudden appearance in our sky. We had no idea it was close to our planet until the day it passed by us. Again, this shows how fragile we really are. Our best scientists and researchers had no idea this object was flying past us until the last minute. And at this point, it could have been too late. This object is estimated to be 57 to 130 meters in diameter, or 187 to 426 feet. Interestingly, it's the closest an asteroid came to planet Earth in 2019. It came within 62,000 miles, or 100,000 kilometers of Earth. And although this doesn't sound close, when we're referring to distances in space, this is pretty close. Another mysterious object was again spotted orbiting our planet a while back. Online sources announced that our planet could have an artificial satellite orbiting around it, and when this was announced, it caused quite a bit of speculation as to what it could be. Interestingly, this object looks similar to an empty bag. It's been theorized that the object in question is a leftover piece of junk from previous space missions, but at the moment astronomers are unsure. The object was first picked up by scientists while scanning the skies for near-Earth objects. It was picked up by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. This is a robotic system that tells astronomers about near-Earth objects before they collide with our planet. Over the years, the system has detected many objects since first being implemented, and the project has even received NASA funding, which has helped add 2 additional telescopes in the southern hemisphere. These additional telescopes will help scientists to scan the skies and get quicker updates about near-Earth objects. This particular object caught the attention of astronomers because of its size. Although it may seem pointless doing research on this object, it's important for the scientists to understand what the object is. One of the first things they picked up on was that it's extremely lightweight and has a high area-to-mass ratio. As mentioned, the researchers have said the most likely candidate is that of a leftover rocket launch. But this isn't fact, and researchers are still studying the object. One thing they found interesting is that of its orbit. When objects such as rocket engines are picked up on, they can be seen much closer to Earth, whereas this is much further out. A study in 2013 said there's over 170 million bits of debris outside of our Earth, and that these are smaller than 1 centimeter. There's over 670,000 pieces of debris between 1 and 10 centimeters, and around 29,000 larger pieces were estimated to be in orbit around the Earth. It's important to note that these objects will fall back to Earth sometime in the future, so the likelihood is that this object is one of those pieces. Every year, scientists and researchers do a fantastic job of making new discoveries, and with space being so vast, many more will be made in the coming years. One interesting story that made the news recently was that our sun once had a twin. Our sun lies at the heart of our solar system, and it's no secret it's massive. Scientists have figured out that our sun is around 110 times the diameter of the Earth. This means that over 1 million Earths could fit inside the sun. The outside of the sun is over 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. However, that's nothing compared to the core, which can reach more than 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. NASA have said that to match the energy the sun produces, you would have to set off 100 billion tons of dynamite every second. Researchers have come forward and said that when our sun was born 4.5 million years ago, it had a twin. However, this twin sun was not identical. The Harvard scientists have said this was the same with every other star in our universe. It has in fact been proven that many stars do have companions. Astronomers have now focused on trying to understand whether the binary and triple star systems are born that way. Astronomers have been searching for the sun's twin. This star goes by the name of Nemesis. It's even been suggested that Nemesis is the reason behind the KT extinction, one of the largest mass extinction events to happen on our planet, and it's also become known as the dive of the dinosaurs. It's been theorized that Nemesis pushed an asteroid into the orbit of the Earth. A research astronomer from UC Berkeley said the following: "There probably was a Nemesis a long time ago. We have searched and tried to find out where this star resides. The system where this star would be is either broke apart or shrank. This other sun, however, wouldn't have been near the current one. It's thought that at one point in time, it could have been over 800 million miles away from Earth. An idea that's been presented by scientists is that this sun most likely escaped in their mix with other stars. And this would have been somewhere in the Milky Way's region. As mentioned, this isn't science fiction either. Other researchers have come forward and said this is not the first time that the idea that stars form with a companion has been suggested. Researchers are still looking at this theory, and they state they will look at the origins of binary and multiple star systems, however, although this theory does have its supporters. There are those that don't believe in the Nemesis theory. As our population has grown, more and more areas across our planet are being explored. It turns out there are very few places that have been left alone. We've discovered and explored a large amount of our planet, and this has led to some interesting discoveries. Satellite imaging has helped locate all of the land on our planet, and has helped researchers. However, it appears that despite all of our technology, the deep forests of the world prevent many of this exploration, and centers around impossible to explain encounters that no one is quite ready to answer. One of these interesting locations can be found in India. The Dew Hill Forest is plagued by a number of strange supernatural sightings and disappearances. Many locals and tourists alike have reported seeing children running through the forest at night, appearing to be deformed or startling in their appearance. These claims have only become more and more popular as many skeptics flock to the site with the hopes of dismissing these stories, only to capture a tremendous amount of images and footage of school children running through the forest at night. Oddly enough, the Victoria Boys' School, located in that region and established in the 1800s, is rumored to be the hot spot of paranormal activity from the forest. There are no longer faculty members that will work late at the school throughout the night, and janitors and other employees that are forced to work through the night tend to have a higher rate of turnover and end up quitting the job pretty much as soon as they started. Some of these individuals have reported that during their shifts they will see shadows flickering across the wall, and that when they go in for a closer look they will vanish before their eyes. Another worker reported that while cleaning the floors they could hear noises coming from another part of the building. Knowing he was alone, he decided to investigate, thinking that perhaps some students had sneaked into the building. As the man approached the noises, he could tell they were those of children and described them as high-pitched laughs. He said that at the time he felt uneasy as there shouldn't have been any children in the building. As the noises got louder, he knew he was on the right path. And then suddenly he heard the distinctive sound of a ball bouncing on the ground. This sound was coming from behind him. As he turned around, he couldn't see anything as the halls were covered in dark shadows. After staring into the darkness for what seemed like several minutes, a ball slowly started to roll out from the shadows until it eventually stopped at his feet. The worker described that he'd been frozen in place during this experience, and that he'd never had anything like this happen to him before. Further saying that when he heard stories about people freezing in place, he never believed it. After the ball arrived at his feet, he picked it up and slowly started to make its way towards the shadow. When getting there, however, he saw nothing, and so continued to the room he was cleaning. Just before he arrived, though, he heard the sound of a little girl laughing from behind him. This was enough for the man, and he decided to leave during the middle of the night, with the story saying that he never returned to the school. Many students during the day also report footsteps echoing throughout the corridors, doors slamming behind them, and even sightings of ghostly encounters in locker rooms. One girl reported that in the bathroom she saw the ghostly apparition of a boy, and after making eye contact she ran out of the room screaming. One of the most famous reports from this region is that of the shadows of children. There's been several occasions where students have reportedly had run-ins with these mysterious beings. One student describes seeing a new girl at school, and because they saw her alone they felt sorry for her, and so decided to go up and start the conversation. As she turned the corner, the boy then ran to try and catch up, but when he turned around the corner she was nowhere to be seen. Additionally, given the history the school has had when connected to old British expansion, some have theorized that perhaps a darker history took place in the region, given birth to such paranormal occurrences. With some researchers saying it's strange how so many paranormal beings are reported. There are some that have suggested that something happened here, and this is the reason why so many people report seeing the same thing. Some have described this as a residual haunting, and this is where an entity will carry out repetitive actions. For example, someone making banging noises or walking up and down stairs. The reason people say this could be what's going on here is because many have reported the same thing. Apart from the younger beings, another famous entity that's reported here is that of the shadow people. The shadow people are said to appear and disappear before you, seemingly made entirely out of nothing but a shadowy substance. According to witnesses, the black dogs of the British Isles are the worldly apparitions that many believe to be hellhounds ready to attack anyone nearby. It's described as being larger than a normal dog and featuring a shadowy-like body with glowing red eyes. Many have claimed to have encountered the creatures shortly after a terrible storm, or in areas associated with death, such as that of old places of execution and ancient buildings. The shadowed people are described as being black masses, and they can often be seen around objects that are said to be haunted, or in places where something bad has happened. One of the first things people say they feel when they see them is fear, and that it's as if they drain all of the energy out of the room and leave only darkness. Some have reported them as having glowing red eyes, while in other cases they're reported as having jet black eyes. Today, the frightening hauntings of the forest have only grown in numbers, as locals have begun reporting hearing a number of screams, sounds of children crying or laughing, and a number of strange sights including large glowing red eyes and trees swaying under the weight of tremendous unseen beasts. Throughout history, there have been reports of paranormal entities. All cultures talk about the paranormal and afterlife in one form or another, and even to this day, millions of people believe in the paranormal. From a scientific perspective, it's said that what people are seeing is nothing more than natural phenomena or our minds playing tricks on us. One of the issues is many of us haven't encountered anything paranormal, so it's hard to judge or give an opinion when we haven't witnessed it ourselves. Those who have said it's changed the way they view the world, and that they think we share this world with mysterious entities. Over the years, paranormal researchers have given names to certain entities. For example, the poltergeist is said to be a type of ghost that's able to cause harm to people and even move objects with force. Another interesting forest that has many stories attached to it is that of the Devil's Tramping Ground. Out in North Carolina, locals of the area found an unexplainable region of the nearby forest that seems to deny all logic and reasoning. The area is referred to as the Devil's Tramping Ground, as it appears to be completely devoid of growth of any kind. Similar to that scene of a large animal beast stomping around in a circle without rest. The strange and mysterious 40-foot ring of compacted soils has been the talk of local legends since the discovery of the region. It's found right beside Silver City, located in North Carolina. The local residents claim that almost every night if someone visits this odd and mysterious location, you'll be able to see a dark spirit stomping on the ground in anger, and leading to the region's black and uncompacted state. The location is so strange that even the North Carolina State Department of Agriculture has spent years taking samples of the soil, but is yet to come up with an explanation for why the 40-foot radius is completely devoid of life. Experts originally believed that perhaps there was a more scientific approach to the whole situation, believing that maybe a lack of nutrients in the soil or a spawning ground for insects could be the reason for the black and compacted state. Studies came back inconclusive to any of those results, and by the standards of the tests held by the North Carolina State Department of Agriculture, the soil should be some of the most fertile soil in the region. Some people have camped out here and have allegedly seen things they can't explain, but these encounters can't be backed up with proof. Today, experts are still uncertain as to what can be causing this flattened, compacted soil, and many paranormal investigators have stayed out most nights to watch the region, but fail to spot anything supernatural or paranormal causing the Devil's Tramping Ground. This means that the entire region, both forested and trampled, appears to harbor a strange phenomenon that is overwhelmingly unexplained in the world of science. Time has seen events in history and nature that cannot be explained, be it unsolved crimes, objects with mysterious origins, or occurrences that simply don't make sense. The world has become a less mysterious place with developments in technology and science, as they have helped to unravel some of the biggest mysteries. With that being said, however, there are some that have remained unsolved, and to this day researchers are working hard to try and get answers for these cases. One interesting story is that of Francis Levy's handprint. A mysterious hand remained visible in the window of a fire station in Chicago after all attempts had been made to clean it. Even teams had been brought in to buff and scrape it off, but none of them were able to remove the mysterious handprint. As believed by many, the handprint was of a firefighter, Francis Levy, who had predicted the loss of his life while cleaning the very window back in 1924. On the 18th of April, 1924, Francis Levy, a professional firefighter in the fire department of Chicago Fire Station, was busy doing cleanup and maintenance work when his colleagues noticed that his behavior was out of the ordinary. While washing one of the windows, Francis talked of having a strange feeling that he was going to lose his life that day. After the fateful utterances, a street conductor who was off-duty noticed a building on fire a few blocks away. The four-story Currents Hall building was up in flames, and the off-duty conductor managed to pull the fire alarm, after which the fire department of Chicago responded. Francis, who was at the moment engaged as a pipeman with Engine 107, was among the team that responded to the alarm. They arrived at the scene shortly after 7 p.m. and started their work attacking the fire from both inside and outside, being able to access the upper floors through ladders. With no oxygen mask, the inside teams would take turns to pass the hoses and run to the windows for fresh air before going back to put out the flames. As they were fighting the fire, some people noticed some anomalies, like the flames burning down the stairs as if burning with liquid oil. Yet, there shouldn't have been any oil at the Currents Hall. The flames had weakened the building structure, and the ceiling collapsed around 13 minutes after they started to put the fire out, crushing those inside the building, with the collapsing walls crushing the team that was manning the ladders. A total of 9 firefighters, among them Francis Levy, who lost their lives in the collapse, which also injured 20 more firefighters. William Bear, a civilian, lost his life while trying to save the firefighters who were trapped inside the building. The funerals for those who lost their lives were done between the dates of the 21st and 23rd. 6 firefighters from Truck 12, 2 from Engine 5 and 1 from Engine 107, which was Francis Levy's, lost their lives. They later discovered this was an arson fire planted by a business selling sports goods and novelties on the 2nd floor of the building, which was later sued for arson and murder. The fire spread like flowing liquid because wood alcohol had been poured in the building before the fire was lit. It's saddening to think of the firefighters who lost their lives, and those who lost friends, colleagues and families just so the owners of the sports shops could be paid out by the insurance company. People lost their lives and would never be able to talk to their loved ones again, and this happened just because someone was looking for a quick payout, and because of these stupid actions it changed these families' lives forever. The next day, one of the owners at the engine house noticed a strange stain on the window pane. The staff tried to wash it off and scrub it off in vain, and it instead started to become more clearer, taking the shape of a handprint. This was disturbing since Francis had cleaned the very spot when he spoke of his forthcoming demise the previous day. It was proposed that the glass be completely removed. This was after every attempt to remove the stain had failed. The employees, however, thought differently. Since no one knew the reason for it being there, it was better off left alone. The window pane stayed that way for many years in memory of Francis Levy, until around 20 years later on the 18th of April, 1994, when a paperboy on his normal duty threw a newspaper at the window and destroyed it, together with the mysterious handprint that could not be arranged. Another interesting story involving that of an apparition is that of the White Lady of Worsley Church. Diane Berflot had been sick for months after the removal of her gallbladder, and was on antibiotics when she visited St. Mary's Church in Worcester in the UK. This was while being in the company of her husband Peter and their son. They went into the church to get out of the heat. Diane then sat on a bench near the front of the church and started to pray for healing. While she was doing this, her husband and son started taking photos inside the church. Diane recalls having a warm, tingly feeling as she bowed her head in prayer. After this, she started to feel better. Then, after spending a few more minutes in the church, she went home and forgot about the incident. This was until 6 months later, when they developed their photos to view their holiday snaps. They noticed something mysterious. In one of the photos, they saw a woman seated behind Diane, dressed in very old-fashioned clothes and having a glowing aura. They were certain that day there was no one sitting that close to Diane. After seeing the photo, Diane recalled the tingling, warm sensation that engulfed her whole body. The husband remembered moving around the whole church looking around, but said that he doesn't remember seeing anyone sitting that close to his wife. This made them curious, and on their next holiday they decided to visit the church again. Diane and her husband went back to St. Mary's Church, and while there they bumped into the vicar. They showed Reverend Petty the photos, and he was surprised. The vicar narrated to them a local tale of a white lady who came to heal sick people. At the time they visited the church and took the photo. Diane was sick and on antibiotics. The story also has it that back in the 1830s, a man who lived in Worsteed heard of the story of the White Lady of the Worsteed Church, which claimed there was a lady who would appear on the eve of every Christmas at the church and anyone who saw her would lose their life. This man who did not believe in such tales and said that he would be at the church on Christmas Eve, and that he would try to kiss the lady if he saw her. This was to test the truth of the legend. The man went into the church, and after taking too long inside, his friends went looking for him, and they ended up finding him huddled in one of the corners of the church, shaking and whispering that he'd seen her. The man ended up passing away soon after. The story soon took a turn, however, when multiple people who saw the woman felt a sensation come over them, and that they were ill at the time but started to feel much better. Diane continued to feel the tingling sensation every time she looked at the photo, and believes that the visit from the White Lady was a blessing. The photo at the moment is on display at the pub known as the White Lady, and since then there have been mysterious occurrences like flickering lights, glasses being moved around the pub, and the feeling of a strange touch while in the cellar. This is more of a comforting haunting than a scary one, since people now believe that the White Lady lives in the building. The story of the White Lady has received a lot of adornment, and the pub has seen a large influx of people wanting to visit the building. This is in the hopes of getting a glimpse of the magical lady in white. The owner of this building was inspired by his original home, which was initially the King's Head, with the White Lady being the reason for at least one ultimate loss of life on Christmas Eve. It will not come as a surprise to find out there are still some locals who think she is more of a mysterious spirit, deciding the fate of those who see her. As of today, there are those that believe she's an angel and helps those in need, while others describe her as doing God's work and suggest that if someone has done something bad in their life, they will be punished. Another interesting story is that of the Michigan Angel. Going back a few years ago, a man claims that his security camera captured an angel. A man from Michigan claims that his security camera, which has a motion sensor, captured what he believes was an angel floating over his trunk. A far chief from East Jordan said that seeing the image floating up and out of his camera frame astonished him. He told the local news stations that he was certain it was an angel, and couldn't wait to share the image with his wife and pastor. The pastor of the Jordan Rivers Church said that he freaked out upon seeing the photos and believed in his mind that it was something supernatural. Soon after, the pastor posted it on the church's Facebook page and said that it was indeed an angel. The photo attracted many online responses, even from atheists who stated the photo went viral because people were mixing up a moth with an angel. It's been shared on the Facebook page of the Jordan Rivers Church more than 500 times. Always been speculation amongst the fringe topic community at the probability of coincidence between the strange sightings of a large ape-like creature, known commonly as a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and the sightings of unidentified flying objects located in the same region. Though there are many that seem to refuse to engage in the conversation relative to this odd connection, there are important statistics to note about this strange correlation. So today we will be looking over data and analyzing the information as to the viability of the connection of Bigfoot and unidentified flying objects. After the creation of the independent organization known as the Mutual Unidentified Flying Object Network, or MUFON for short, a lot of information was gathered about various sightings of UFOs and extraterrestrial activity, and data had been compiled for years about these different facts and connections made. Among these connections, the MUFON organization made a startling realization. There was mainly only 3 different extraterrestrial types that existed. The first most commonly cited extraterrestrial was referred to as the Greys, a species that was on average to be 3 to 4 feet tall, gray-skinned with large black eyes, small mouths, and large oval-shaped heads. They would commonly appear to be very humanoid in nature, and are the most recognizable figure of alien life across popular media and mainstream science fiction works. The second most commonly seen extraterrestrial sighting were referred to as the Nords. The Nordic aliens were named as such given the fact that they appeared to be eerily similar to the description of Old Norse gods and of the Scandinavian people at large. Most witness accounts described these strange Nordic aliens as having a milky white complexion, white hair, and dressed in the apparel of white clothing, but appear in all other regard to look completely human. It is important to keep these 2 extraterrestrial sightings in mind because we will later be coming back to them. But most importantly, we need to look at the third most common ET sighting, the Sasquatch. Many people who encountered strange UFO sightings wrote witness reports of saucers landing and a Bigfoot coming out, or encountering a Bigfoot in the forest only for it to disappear like a ghost. and for moments later to see a nearby unidentified flying object to immediately take off into the sky. These cases also do not include single encounters with the Sasquatch, and only include reports regarding a definitive extraterrestrial account. Could it then be that the Sasquatch is another race of extraterrestrials visiting our planet? Are they fascinated with forests rather than other areas given the fact that the majority of Sasquatch sightings are around forested locations? Our researchers have looked through the data and began making startling connections, not amongst UFO statistics, but rather of ancient mythologies found around the world. Many past ancient alien enthusiasts have made the potential connection between aliens and gods, positing forth the theory that perhaps the gods of the past were merely aliens guiding and influencing the evolution of our species. During the statistical analysis of the Bigfoot project, the Sasquatch eerily fits the description of giants. Scattered throughout mythologies around the world is reference to creatures similar to that of the gods, but often regarded differently due to their large size. The Greeks refer to them as titans, the Jews as the Nephilim, the Norse as giants. Even myths of the isolated Easter Island inhabitants and their religions talked about giants first inhabiting the region and constructing the massive megalithic structures referred to as the Easter Island heads. In fact, many megalithic structures from around the world are surrounded by myths of giants constructing them, including ancient hieroglyphics depicting giants walking amongst ancient Egyptians and their constructions. Many different religions, cultures, and mythologies from around the world provide information of their definitions and that fit the modern-day descriptions of the Sasquatch. So what do these ancient myths tell us about the giants? The only record that provides the most detailed account of stories of giants inhabiting the forests and their special abilities comes from the legends and myths surrounding a mystical and enigmatic figure known as Merlin. Merlin wrote in countless details about a race of giants that appeared to be ape-like but were far more evolutionarily advanced compared to the human race and had been around since the time before humans. They predominantly lived in forest areas and had the ability to travel between different realms between the Earth and other various worlds. The descriptions provided by Merlin also appear to match that of modern-day Sasquatch in all likeness, including their size, hair, color, behavior, and their fascination with the forests of our world. Most important of all, however, is the fact that these creatures that Merlin encountered had the ability to travel interdimensionally between worlds using pockets and hidden areas on the Earth that allowed them to travel between realms similar to that of a secret wormhole or passageway in design. Interestingly enough, the idea of giants traveling between realms is not all that new and has a strange similarity to the Old Norse mythologies, that were connected to Earth and fought against the Old Norse gods in terrible battles. This idea of gods versus giants is also not new in regards to Norse mythology. This was seen in the gods fighting against titans in Greece or the flood of the Ark in the Bible that was caused by God to destroy the Nephilim. But with Norse mythology there is an added level of strange detail. The Norse told of 3 different races. The first that we all know of is humans. We live in the realm referred to as Midgard. In the realm known as Jotunheim lives the giants, described to be large and hairy and able to survive in the cold frosts of their world. In the realm of Asgard is the Norse gods, and in the realm of Svartalheim is the home of the dwarves. Here we make a startling comparison. The 3 most common cited extraterrestrials fit the definitions of the Old Norse mythology of beings from other realms. The dwarves in Norse mythology were also known as dark elves. Why is this? Because they had gray skin. In many depictions of the dwarves, they also appeared to have large black eyes, small mouths, large oval-shaped heads, and were roughly 3 to 4 feet tall. They matched the exact description of modern-day gray aliens. Not only this, but the dwarves were known to be masters of technology and helped to craft the hammer of Thor by utilizing materials in high density located at the center of a dying star, proving that they had intergalactic means of travel. Could it be that the dwarves in Norse mythology were the gray aliens? The second most common alien sighting known as the Nords exactly matches that of the Norse gods, with milky white skin, blue eyes, and overall human-like appearance. And lastly, the Norse mythologies of the giants directly matches that of the modern-day Bigfoot sightings. After understanding and making these strange connections, we find that the most important question begins to surface. What could this mean? Is it possible that perhaps our understanding of alien life has been wrong this entire time? that perhaps these beings are not extraterrestrial but interdimensional. More evidence is provided given the fact that not only is there undoubtedly a link between these Sasquatch creatures and sightings of unidentified flying objects, but the fact of these two other alien species so closely matched the Norse religion and their information regarding their mechanisms of travel, which was the ability to use a rainbow bridge that could take them between realities. This rainbow bridge, or rather a bridge using the prism of light, seems so familiar to early concepts of a wormhole theory known as the Einstein-Rosen bridge. The ability to warp spacetime enough to manipulate gravitational waves and create an interdimensional means of travel which would, in turn, allow the manipulation of light waves simultaneously. Though we may not have all the answers, there seems to be an obvious missing key to the information provided. If the Sasquatch correlation proves that there are other interdimensional species visiting the Earth and using it as a meeting place or rather as a neutral ground, then could there still be a battle raging between these two advanced life forms to this day? Are there other potential species visiting as well? If this is truly an interdimensional means, then given the ideas of multiverse theory, could there be a potential infinite number of variations of ourselves amongst these universes, and that is what we are witnessing? Perhaps these gray aliens, these Sasquatch creatures, and these Nord-like advanced races are merely different potential evolutionary pathways we could have taken, and that would account for the reasons as to why each and every one of these alien races appear to be so humanoid in nature. In the southern part of Siberia lies a mysterious lake which has many stories attached to it. This interesting lake is known as Lake Baikal, and it's reported as being the deepest and most ancient lake on the planet. Due to this, it's been given the name of the Pearl of Russia. This lake is deep, and it's said that within these depths of creatures and objects, only a few are seen. Giant lake monsters have been reported to live in Lake Baikal. Perhaps the most interesting reports from this region, though, is the vast amounts of unidentified flying objects said to be interested in this area. Interestingly, declassified Soviet-era documents have been discovered which detail the Russian Navy have had run-ins with unidentified flying objects. Although these documents don't mention just UFOs or even the lake in particular, the two are talked about in the documents, and it's led some people to believe that these crafts have been visiting the lake for many decades. For years now, mysterious lights have been seen by various people visiting the lake. These mysterious objects are known by the locals, and they've said they've been here for many years. Some groups have even suggested the crafts are after something inside the lake, while others suggest they're just observing. Some have suggested that these crafts actually enter the water, and have on some occasions been seen exiting the water at very high speeds. This has caused them to become known as USOs. Many are well aware of the commonalities seen when reading over numerous UFO reports, and what they tend to mean when spotted. The term UFO has become synonymous with images of extraterrestrial life, despite the term having existed in aviation for many decades prior to the alien abduction phenomenon that helped to popularize the term. Prior to its stigma with the extraterrestrial phenomenon, the term UFO, which stands for Unidentified Flying Object, was commonly used in the military to help classify enemy planes that had not yet been identified. Though it might seem obvious in explanation, many still can't help to envision little green men when the term UFO is thrown around in a wide number of military and civilian reports to this day. UFO is not the only term that's grown in popularity within the extraterrestrial awareness community in recent years, as there appears to be another term that is slowly becoming far more popular and shedding light on the technological capabilities of extraterrestrial life. Known as unidentified submerged objects, there have been a number of reports by fishermen, naval intelligence, and a wide number of anonymous claims by extraterrestrial awareness outlets that describe sightings of bright lights or quick-moving objects through the ocean that does not fit the design of anything terrestrial in nature. And Lake Baikal is said to be one of the places on the planet where these mysterious crafts can be seen. These USOs, as they're called, have proven to look remarkably similar to UFO sightings and flying saucers-shaped extraterrestrial crafts. In fact, many sailors have claimed to have seen USOs rise out of the water and fly away as a massive bright light. This has led many to consider the very real possibility that UFO crafts also have the ability to serve as submerged crafts, leading many to believe that perhaps there are a number of underwater extraterrestrial research bases on Earth that our current technology is unable to detect and discover. What then are people around Lake Baikal witnessing? The truth is, no one knows what these crafts are and what they want. Information on them is limited and they've never been photographed going in and out of the water. One interesting account of these UFOs involves that of a Russian Tu-154 aircraft. This plane was said to have been chasing an unidentified flying object when something suddenly went wrong. It caused the plane to make an emergency landing in the lake. It said the plane was sent out because one of these UFOs was getting too close, and the military wanted to know what it was. However, the plane wasn't able to get close to the craft, and some researchers have suggested the UFO shut the plane's electrics, and this is the reason why it crashed into the lake. Perhaps the most interesting account to come from the lake is that of the lake people. This first contact happened in 1982. This was when Navy divers in the lake reported seeing what they described were giant humanoids. They said these beings were much larger than them and appeared to be wearing some kind of suit. The divers were interested in these underwater giants and so decided to go and investigate. However, the story goes that as they approached the beings, they were quickly thrown to the surface of the lake. And due to the force in which this happened, the team suffered multiple injuries, with some of them even passing away. The Russian government, however, denies that this happened, and they say it's nothing but stories. Interestingly, these aren't just one-off reports either. Many have come forward with their alleged encounters with these creatures, and each one follows a similar theme. Reports details that when approaching near the continent of Antarctica, Japanese crew members will report seeing what appears to be large giants laying out in the ocean, and that they appear to be humanoid in shape. These creatures are described as being 20 to 30 meters in length and completely white in skin tone. Others have reported that the creatures was originally mistaken as being a large submarine in the distance, before getting closer and seeing hands, fingers, eyes, and a mouth. This led to the name of the Ningen by the Japanese crew, whereas others simply refer to these creatures as the Antarctic humans. To this day, a few images can be seen online, but some have suggested these are recreations and not the actual creature itself. Those that have had a close encounter with them have described them as being calm creatures and do not mind humans being in the area. Although the majority of these stories comes from the icy continent, others have shared their story of encountering something similar in other parts of the world. This has led some theorists to speculate that these creatures actually inhabit a wide area and aren't just confined to the cold waters of our planet. In Sweden, residents have been coming forward and saying that when on their boats they keep seeing strange creatures in the water. They describe them as aquatic creatures, and some people have come forward and given detailed accounts. One person said that while on their boat they could see a large white object below the surface. After slowing the boat down to get a better look, the creature in question slowly swam past. Not knowing what these creatures are, many have tried to take a photograph, but the majority of them are blurry and don't show anything that can be ID'd. These creatures are thought to resemble large humanoids and don't look like any marine creature. While some videos have emerged showing these creatures, most agree they're fake. However, the eyewitnesses stand by their testimonies and say that these strange creatures are attracted to their bones. It's not just Russia where these USOs are being seen. Sweden is also said to be a hotspot for these unidentified submerged objects. UFOs are being reported here constantly, and the fishermen can't explain what these mysterious objects are. An unidentified submerged object, or USO, as any object or optical mechanical detection phenomenon of unknown origin, observed underwater that remains unidentified even after a thorough investigation. Most people who see these USOs usually report flashing lights under the water. Some eyewitnesses say these crafts can enter the water without making any disturbance. However, photos and videos of these crafts is debatable. Some believe the creature responsible for these sightings could be that of the Ningen that is seen close to Antarctica. These creatures are usually encountered in cold regions, but in the last few years reports have come from all over the world. These creatures are said to often get misidentified as whales, and some eyewitnesses have said it's hard to tell the difference unless you're really close. Sometimes they're described as having fins or a large mermaid-like tail instead of legs, or even tentacles. Although the creatures are said to be quite relaxed, it's said that if a human approaches one, they'll quickly disappear. These creatures are believed to be curious but shy. All of these stories tend to follow a similar theme. Usually when someone does encounter them, it's always brief. Ningen sightings seem to occur most frequently at night, making them all the more difficult to photograph. It's been suggested by some that this creature is responsible for the encounters in Sweden. However, skeptics believe that eyewitnesses are just seeing whales or other marine life. It's said that until better photographs can be taken, this creature will remain a mystery. As of today, Lake Baikal has left many with questions, and every so often people still report seeing strange lights above the lake. It's also reported to be a serpent-like monster living in the lake, and it's said to be one of the reasons why the Russians were so interested in diving down there. However, as with most alleged sea monsters, it's been reported it's just a myth, and it's told in the hopes of getting more people to visit the lake. Time travel is a fun topic. For years now, there have been a number of strange occurrences that seem to create a manipulation in both space and time. These strange occurrences have come to be known as different instances of time travel and time slips in our reality that not only causes unexplainable phenomena to surface, but can change our very perspective on the nature of our world. Some of these are known to be hoaxes, but there are some cases in which, of course, a lot of confusion. This could be because the case never gets solved or the people involved seem to vanish. Recently, Ron Mallett made the news by talking about time travel. In fact, it's said that he's built a prototype time machine and that it could help us to achieve much more in the future. Ron Mallett is currently an astrophysicist and physics professor at the University of Connecticut. He recently did an interview with CNN where he said the following: so according to the theory of relativity, if you're traveling fast enough, you respectively are traveling through time, and effectively that would be a representation of time travel. Many of the greatest accomplishments surrounding that of Einstein's work was not actually that of the math that he developed with the help of his wife, but rather that of his understanding of the qualities of space and time, and the addition of his work surrounding the existence of dimensions when talking about the nature of reality itself. In the realm of classical physics, many scientists had once believed that our universe, our very reality, was once only existing in 3 discrete dimensions. These 3 dimensions allowed solid objects to exist on 3 different planes, length, width, and height, and was believed to make up the entirety of space. The truth was, however, far stranger than what Aeon had ever anticipated. Given the fact that 3-dimensional space has the ability to warp and distort the very fabric of reality, Albert Einstein began his work on theories of special and general relativity, understanding that perhaps there was another dimension they'd yet to be accounted for. It was during this work that Einstein would uncover the nature of gravity wells, the distortion of space, and how this can in turn distort the very passage of time itself. By understanding that the warping of space also correlated with that of the distortion of time, it became obvious to Einstein that space and time were one and the same, and that perhaps this unaccounted for extra dimension was that of time itself. By realizing that time and space will interweave, Albert Einstein began to propose his theories of the fabric of space-time, the understanding that both work in tandem to help form the very nature of reality itself. Ron Mallett went on to say the following during his interview: "It turned out my understanding about lasers helped me in my breakthrough with understanding how I might be able to find a whole new way for the basis of a time machine. By studying the type of gravitational field that was produced by a laser ring, this could lead to a new way of looking at the possibility of a time machine based on a circulating beam of light. Eventually, a circulating beam of laser lights could act as a sort of time machine and cause a twisting of time that would allow you to go back in the past." Ron is someone who has experience with lasers, and his time machine is based around them. The machine currently consists of a closed loop with 2 beams of light that travel in opposite directions. It's been proven that a laser ring is able to measure the effects of the rotation of the Earth. The idea here is that this machine could be built on a much larger scale, and it could be used to distort time. However, as of right now, there are flaws. For example, it said you would be able to travel back in time but not come back, and you'd only be able to travel back to the time in which the machine was turned on. Although there are flaws, researchers have said it's a great start, and although more researchers needed, these initial discoveries could lead on to bigger things. Although time travel sounds impossible, there have been a few cases of time slips that have interested many people. Perhaps one of the most famous ones is that of the mysterious man from Torrent. This story is said to be one of the biggest pieces of evidence for that of a strange glitch in reality, and it's left many wondering if the story is evidence of alternate realities, and somehow a mix-up in the fabric of our universe that could have briefly interacted with another. In the month of July in 1954, Japanese officials at the Tokyo airport had a problem identifying the country of origin for a man that was ready to board a plane back to Europe. On his verified passport was the country of Torad that had no signs of a forged document. After sitting down with the man and questioning who he was and where he was going, he became increasingly annoyed as to why he was being held. They later revealed to him the problem with trying to find his country of origin, of which didn't exist. After arguing with them to show the country on the map, they gathered several different world maps for him to use as evidence for his country's existence. As he pulled over the map, pointing to the general direction near France and other areas, he realized that his country wasn't anywhere to be found. He became increasingly disturbed by this and told the officials that his country had been around for more than 1,000 years, and that it didn't make any sense. When they asked for him to confirm his identity, he gave the name of his company as well as the company he was visiting in Tokyo on a business meeting, and that during his trip he had a scheduled meeting ahead of time. The officials then called the Japanese company, but they quickly denied ever having heard of the man or having any meeting schedule. Additionally, they couldn't find no evidence of the man's company whatsoever. This ended with the officials renting a hotel room for him to stay in, while several guards watched as they were unsure of what he would do. When the man laid down, it's said that he disappeared and was never seen again. Another alleged case of time travel is that of Kathy Kramer. In the month of August back in 1960, a strange disappearance occurred in which a 6-year-old girl went missing. This led to a full investigative search by law enforcement and investigators throughout the entire house and a few miles radius surrounding the house. This led to neighbors, volunteers, law enforcement, and many others joining in on the search, doing full sweeps of the house and the neighborhoods. Details surrounding the investigation came from the combined witness accounts of the parents. They claimed that the young girl was put to bed around 7 p.m., but then faded from existence and disappeared before their very eyes. It wasn't until another 8 hours passed that suddenly the young girl faded back into existence, asleep in her bed as if she'd never left. When asked about where she was or what happened, she refused to speak. And officers and other investigators were completely baffled as to how a young 6-year-old girl could have hidden from so many people. Perhaps one place where time travel or time slips is seen as in ancient paintings. One of the more well-known ones is that of the Madonna with Saint Giovannino. The painting depicts Madonna with the infant Jesus and Saint John. In the background is a man looking up into the sky, and also his dog by his side with its mouth open slightly. Both of them have their attention focused on something in the sky. When first looking at the painting, one of the first things you'll notice is a large object that can be seen hovering in the sky. It was painted in the 15th century, and in recent years it started to make the rounds on social media, causing many to put forward their ideas on what the object could be. While the main person in the painting is that of Mary, you can't help but see what appears to be an unidentified flying object. Interestingly, the painter even decided to add a man looking at the object. Some have said this is proof that these mysterious crafts have been visiting our planets for years, while others say it could be proof of a time traveler. Some have made the connection that many of these older paintings do show these mysterious objects in the sky. These artists were skilled in what they did, and the question here is, why did they add these objects that look very similar to UFOs? Another theory, however, suggests that the object in question is just God or even angels. As of today, though, the true nature of what the object is still heavily debated. In the last few years, Tom DeLonge has expressed his interest in unidentified flying objects. His biggest audience reach was probably when he decided to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. While on Joe's show, Tom opened up about his interest in UFOs and otherworldly life. He stated that from a young age, the thought of there being aliens interested him. When on tour, he would read books that explored the possibility of extraterrestrials, and since then, he's been hooked. During the interview, however, Tom was reluctant to give much information away. He was being pressed for information, but only said that he would be releasing photographs and videos that would change the way we viewed the world. A couple of days ago, it was announced by Tom and his to the Stars Academy they would be working with the U.S. government, and this was in regards to their unidentified aerial phenomenon discovery. The company has also said they've brought on some leading researchers on AI, and that they're working on a new service. To the Stars Academy posted the following. As part of our AI initiatives, we've built a compelling service for post-ingestion and analysis processing, which marks an instant authentic if it passes human and machine learning analysis. These datasets will help us to analyze future ingested media and clean up unnecessary data. Tom then went on to say the following. This is a very exciting technology we have built. It can be used for numerous defense requirements, as well as its primary mission to track unidentified air phenomenon. Further saying that, I'm proud to be collaborating with the U.S. government on unidentified air phenomenon and the issues that they pose. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to be sitting in this seat, where I and my team at the To the Stars Academy can help understand the issues. First, we start with the U.S. Army testing our anomalous material, allegedly from an unidentified aerial phenomenon crash. Although this is great news in the sense that Tom and his company are making connections, others are worried the path he is going down. Now, before I start, it's important to remember that a UFO is simply an object that someone cannot identify at that moment in time, hence why it stands for Unidentified Flying Object. It's only been in recent years that the UFO has been linked to extraterrestrial beings. It was in fact the military that used this term to describe enemy aircrafts they couldn't explain. But as many are aware, over the last few decades, hundreds of thousands of these objects have been witnessed by people all over the world. And although the majority of these do get explained, a large amount of them remain unsolved. The issues people have with this statement is that he's now working with the government. And according to some, they haven't had open arms when it comes to unidentified flying objects and things of a paranormal nature. In fact, several presidents have come forward and said that UFOs have never landed or visited our planet, so it seems like a strange move for him to now be working with them given their history with the topic. It's caused some to speculate that all they'll do is brush aside their discoveries and suggest they have a mundane explanation, rather than doing actual research in trying to determine what the origins of the object could be. This subject links back to what Tom said on his Twitter a while back. He said the following, everyone will know the reality soon, and unfortunately it's not just something to laugh at. It's pretty unnerving with some bad news, some good news, and with that in mind, all we can do is deal with it honestly and openly. At the time, there was speculation that Tom and his team may have had their hands on some exotic materials, and this came several months after people started to question Tom's intention. After he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, he announced he would be releasing some big news in the coming weeks. However, nothing was said and people thought that Tom may have been lying about what he was up to. But then this announcement came and changed people's minds. It turns out that in a recent statement by Steve Justice, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, says how the organization got their hands on exotic properties. He said the following on the subject, the structure and composition of these materials are not known from any existing military or commercial application. They've been collected from sources with varying levels of chain of custody documentation, so we are focusing on verifiable facts and working to develop independent scientific proof of the material's properties and attributes. In some cases, the manufacturing technology required to fabricate the materials is only now becoming available. To the Stars Academy has acquired multiple pieces of metamaterials that are reported to have come from an advanced aerospace vehicle of unknown origin. We're enthusiastic about its potential use and how it can further our mission for discovery and innovation. As you can imagine, many people are excited about this news. If it turns out to be true, it could be perhaps one of the greatest discoveries ever made. Not only that, but it could prove that what people have been seeing over the past 100 years is in fact advanced aerial machines. This is why the Army are now moving in to try and see if the object is in fact from an unidentified flying object. And if it is, it would definitely be an incredible discovery, proving once and for all that these crafts have been visiting our planet for thousands of years. However, some are not excited by this news and say that even if the materials are exotic, it's very unlikely the truth will be revealed. With one person saying the following on Twitter, out of everyone around, including the scientific rooms, was the Army getting involved? Weren't they the ones that originally said that Roswell was real, then went back on their statement when they saw everyone's reaction? Are they really the best people for this job? It sounds to me like if they do find something, they'll just cover it up and use it to their advantage. Or perhaps this material was from the original Roswell crash and they're just trying to collect and get rid of any proof that is out there. I'm not buying this, and I think the Tom and the To the Stars Academy is making a mistake going down this route. Something seems off, and I don't think we'll ever find the truth about this material. This recent revelation has many people saying that Tom may have been telling the truth the whole time. Some have suggested that over the years there have been a few unidentified flying objects that have collided with our planet, and some have allegedly said that some of these materials have been collected. However, the government and researchers have denied that any UFOs have ever been discovered, saying that we've scoured our skies for decades and not picked up on a single life form. However, it's not like the government hasn't expressed interest in these crafts. Back in 2007, the Department of Defense began developing a UFO research program tasked with gathering information regarding unidentified flying objects and conducting research as to the observed aircrafts, their origin, and their technological prowess. The research group was quickly budgeted with $22 million in support, and a team comprising of military intelligence officials, researchers, and the highest levels of security clearance. The program itself went by the name of ADIP, which stands for the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, and was given the primary objective of identifying these unidentified flying objects as whether or not they are potential threats to national security. It didn't take long for the ARDIP team to gather a wide variety of strange sightings, and these included reports from pilots, including associated data like camera footage and radar information, while attempting to match these sightings with known international aircraft signatures. Expecting to find explanations to these crafts and their origin, it became rather obvious this would not be the case. In fact, many of the researchers involved in the program regarded these UFO sightings in crafts as having no earthly origin and displaying behavior that could not be explained. This could very well be the closest the Department of Defense will ever come to admitting the viability of extraterrestrial crafts without directly saying it. One company that's done a great job at uncovering the vast amount of UFO sightings that happen on a daily basis is that of the privately funded organization known as the Mutual UFO Network. This has allowed UFO researchers and those interested in alien activity a plethora of information pertaining to the subject and to make the connections otherwise impossible to notice without treating the overall statistics as a piece to a bigger picture. This has painted a much clearer image of UFO witness reports in general, and has allowed us to find out how many annual witness reports of UFO activity are made by the general public all around the world. According to gathered reports, more than 6,000 reports have been made annually throughout the region that includes multiple witness testimonies and evidence per report. This means that on average we experience roughly 16 sightings of unidentified flying objects every day. These reports can vary from something as simple as a strange, unexplainable light in the sky to a full-fledged sighting of an extraterrestrial and alien abduction. Putting this into perspective, this is more than a 5,000 report increase since first reports were gathered back in the early 1970s that claim annual reports were as low as 700. This has led to the gathering of an extraordinary amount of evidence pertaining to the UFO phenomenon, with thousands of new photos, videos, and witness reports surfacing every year. Keep in mind that these numbers are only that of the reports that have been followed up and reported to the National UFO Reporting Center and move on, which means there could be an overwhelming amount of evidence and reports not yet shared by the general public in fear of being ridiculed by their peers. There are areas on our planet that haven't been explored by humans. It's these pockets of wilderness that some say are harboring prehistoric life. For some time now, there have been reports of alleged dinosaurs coming from these regions, and although you would be right being skeptical, so many people have allegedly had run-ins with these prehistoric creatures. One prehistoric creature that turned out to still be alive was that of the coelacanth. The underwater world is home to hundreds of thousands of species, and going back millions of years ago, prehistoric fish and reptiles ruled the dams. One of these mysterious creatures went by the name of the coelacanth, and this strange-looking fish was estimated to have gone extinct millions of years ago. However, every so often a diver would come forward and say they'd seen one in the wild. This was, of course, immediately written off as the creature was known to have become extinct. But when more and more reports started to come in, researchers finally decided to investigate. It turned out that when the scientists put a team together to investigate the creatures, they not only found they were real, but that they had been around since the time of the dinosaurs. It's examples like this why people don't rule out the possibility of prehistoric creatures still roaming our planet. Perhaps one of the most well-known images allegedly depicting a dinosaur is that of this one. The story goes that while in an unknown location, this individual was able to capture some strange creatures. When first seen them, the person wasn't sure what they were, and so decided to get their phone out and start recording these creatures. It wasn't until the footage was uploaded that some pointed out they looked like sauropods. For those unaware, sauropods were the largest of the dinosaurs that walked our planet millions of years ago. The largest of these sauropods is believed to be that of Argentinosaurus, or Platycodon minorium, and they would have reached lengths of up to 40 meters or 131 feet. However, when sauropods were young, they would have been much smaller than their parents. Although many don't believe these titans survived the extinction event, some have suggested that a new species was able to branch off, and this is why we have stories of these creatures, one of the more famous ones being that of the Mechalymembe. Going back to the baby sauropods, it was hailed as one of the most clear photographs yet of a previously unknown species, but as it turned out someone had reversed the images. And what we're actually looking at is a group of coats. Interestingly, coats played in reverse do look like what a sauropod is thought to have looked like. These creatures are known for their love of fruits and can be found in Central America. They don't weigh much more than a house cat and try to avoid animals such as jaguars. Although in this case it didn't turn out to be a prehistoric animal, there are many instances in which haven't yet been explained. One of these comes from the famous explorer Lieutenant Colonel Percy Fawcett. Percy Fawcett is a well-known explorer of South America. During his travels, he encounters some mysterious things along the way. Although some have brushed aside these stories, others have questioned that would someone who had this much experience lie about what they saw. On one particular occasion, while exploring the Amazon, Percy and his son discovered what appeared to be giant footprints. The reason he was here is because the locals discovered what was described as a large sauropod-like dinosaur. They sent in the lieutenant to mark the boundaries and investigate what the locals had discovered. After arriving here, it said that Percy admitted to seeing a creature that resembled that of a diplodocus, and that this creature was confirmed to have existed by the locals, as they stated that over the course of several years, they'd encountered these creatures on various occasions. It was said they wasn't harmful but could cause a lot of damage if they wanted. The creature in question is said to be a smaller version of the prehistoric diplodocus and is usually seen in dense vegetation. One of the local tribe members said that many of these have vanished over the years, and going back 100 years ago, seeing this creature was much more common. When pressed for why he thinks they become rare, he said they were hunted for their meat and they could cause damage to surrounding homes. So they wanted to stop them. So the next question is, what are these tribes encountering? After questioning members of the tribe back in the early 1900s, they said that what they are seeing is no normal wildlife. Further saying that the ancient beasts have moved into the swamps and nearby waters for protection, and that if you approach one it will come for your canoe. Some, however, have suggested that what these people are encountering are hippos. However, as pointed out, how could Percy Forsyth get these two confused? A diplodocus looks much different to a hippo. As of today, these mysterious creatures remain a mystery. It's not just land where alleged prehistoric animals have been encountered. Although not dinosaurs, plesiosaurs were creatures that lived alongside the dinosaurs millions of years ago, and some have suggested these giant marine reptiles somehow managed to survive the extinction event. This is due to the fact that all over the world there have been many sightings of these creatures. Perhaps one of the most famous is that of the Loch Ness Monster. Some have made the connection between the two creatures and have put forward the idea that the Loch Ness Monster is in fact a surviving plesiosaur species. Possibly one of the biggest ocean mysteries is that of the search for the Loch Ness Monster. Although many of us have heard stories or seen pictures of the creature, it's long been a mystery as to what the Loch Ness Monster actually is. Theories for the creature have been thrown around for years, some more believable than others. Researchers have said, though, that these could just be anomalies and don't prove anything. Skeptics say that 99% of the Loch Ness Monster sightings can be explained, and they do turn out to be things that are usually mundane, suggesting that what people are actually seeing is things like logs in the water. This can give a distorted image and make people think they're seeing something that's not actually there. Natural phenomena is also said to be another candidate, as well as pareidolia and even local wildlife. What's interesting, though, is there's other creatures out there that match the description of the Loch Ness Monster. One of these goes by the name of Champ. It's a popular Canadian monster that resides deep within Lake Champlain. It's proven to be one of the most legendary and popular monsters ever residing within the Canadian border. Located within the Canadian province of Quebec is that of Lake Champlain, a freshwater lake that holds more than 300 reported sightings of the serpentine-like creature, that many claim is perhaps a distant cousin to that of the Loch Ness Monster. High-quality photographs taken back in 1977 have been proven to be authentic, leading many to believe that Champ is that of a plesiosaur. Scientific proof of the creature's existence has also been gathered in the modern day. This was after a team of marine specialists working for the Fauna Communications Research Institute used an echolocation device to map the bottom of the lake. After doing so, they picked up on an unknown marine animal sound similar to that of a beluga whale, but not from no known marine animal in existence. Today, the monster has a status similar to that of the Loch Ness Monster, and has become the center of cryptid enthusiasts attempting to prove the viability of a surviving plesiosaur species in the modern day. Located on the border of the state of Utah and Idaho in the United States, there appears to be strange sightings of an underwater creature that has been referred to by the locals as the Bear Lake Monster. According to witness reports, this creature is described as being a large serpent with legs more than 18 inches long that quickly runs across the shoreline. It would later surface that back in 1868, many locals in the region were interested in these strange sightings, and so would go on to cause a full investigation on the matter, and this was led by church leaders in the area and other reputable sources of information. These investigations would go on to uncover many different accounts from people living on or near the lake that regarded the existence of the creature as fact, along with questioning some of the Native American populations in the region that told of ancient stories and myths about the lake, and how it was inhabited by a serpent-like water devil. Other church leaders then quickly took interest in the creature, and became obsessed with attempting to capture the strange serpent in an effort to parade it around as a real-life demon that could be used to show the power of God in capturing the beast. A resident near the lake even proposed building a large baited hook attached to a cable of rope more than 300 feet long, and attaching it to a boat to a buoy in the hopes of capturing the creature. However, this tactic never managed to capture the Bear Lake Monster. As of today's sightings of the Bear Lake Monster continue, some even reported that a large underwater behemoth has exited the water and destroyed their camp, while taking one of their horses underwater for a snack. The United States Space Force has been in the media for a while now, with some people not quite understanding why the United States needs a Space Force. Regardless, the whole idea is very much real and has got many people talking. Recently, the U.S. Space Force has defended its newly unveiled camouflage uniforms. This was after they were quickly memed online. Others thought it was funny as to why Space Force had to have camouflage in space, with some people saying, "Who are they hiding from?" The uniform depicts the typical camo color. Space Force has said, though, that the uniform is well underway, and that they're very happy with the design. One person, however, said the following about the decision. "I know this is hard to understand, but on the left there is a picture of a camouflage, and on the right there is a picture of space. Study these carefully until you see the difference." Deborah had this to say about the uniform. "I don't get why they use camo. It's not original and it doesn't make sense. Why is this needed? Regardless of the uniform, why do we need a Space Force?" However, another person had this to say. "This is very funny, but all these comments just reflect that you don't understand the issue. Space capabilities are based in space, but the operations are not. Sometimes they're in the field with the units that need to support those capabilities. Space Force isn't Star Trek. So what is Space Force? For those unaware, Space Force made headlines for being announced on the 20th of December 2019. Although there were talks before this. It sounds like a joke, but on the 18th of June 2018, President Donald Trump said that plans were being put into place to begin a Space Force. This military service would be operating in space and everything that revolves around space. This is the first of its kind, and it got many people asking questions. One being, why do we need a Space Force? If there's no threat beyond our planet, why is this necessary? According to researchers, there's no evidence that extraterrestrial life exists. So for some, it does seem like a strange move. Vice President Mike Pence then came forward and started to give more details about the project, saying that Space Force will fall under the Air Force in the same way the Marine Corps fall under the Department of the Navy. Officials have said that creating Space Force would cost in the region of $2 to $3 billion and will require over 14,000 people. Mike Pence said the following about Space Force: just as in the past when we created the Air Force, establishing the Space Force is an idea whose time has come. The space environment has fundamentally changed in the last generation. What was once peaceful and now uncontested is now crowded and adversarial. Mr. Trump then carried on by saying the following: I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force. This will act as the sixth branch of the armed forces. That's a big statement. We're going to have an Air Force and we're going to have the Space Force. Separate but equal. Interestingly, some have said this comes down to money, and this can be backed up with what Mark Outridge said. He was the executive secretary of the National Space Council from 1989 to 1992. He had this to say: everything from financial transactions to GPS that guards your cards controlled from space, or at least facilitated in space. Not just that, but there's also celestial objects that contain trillions of dollars worth of materials. Recently, NASA have announced that a giant asteroid known as Psyche contains enough precious metals to make everyone on Earth a billionaire. The incredible statement was announced shortly before NASA said they're going to investigate the asteroid. It's over 140 miles in diameter and can be found between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. NASA hope they will be able to launch a mission in 2022. It's even caught the attention of private companies and space mining companies that hope to take a slice of the asteroid for themselves. Researchers have estimated its worth over 10,000 quadrillion. This has also brought in people who want to invest in space mining. One person called Mitch Hunter said the following to the BBC: once you set up the infrastructure, then the possibilities are almost infinite. There is an astronomical amount of money to be made by those bold enough to rise to the challenge of the asteroid rush. Another planet that would make you instantly rich is that of Cancun, also known as the Diamond Planet. Known as 55 Cancun, the rest of planets made almost entirely out of diamonds, and it's expected to be roughly 8 times the collective mass of our planet Earth. Unfortunately, if you planned on mining the planets to fathom its precious gems, you would find the entire planet to be so hostile that it's most likely almost entirely covered in lava. The planet is expected to be tidally locked, which means there rests a permanent day side and a permanent night side, as there's no rotation to create a day and night cycle. This leaves the day side of the planet to be more than 1,700 degrees Celsius in temperature, a temperature more than hot enough to turn iron into liquid. Its gravity works out to be more than 8 times that of Earth's, and the large amount of data concerning surface temperature variations have been connected to a large amount of possible volcanic activity, and this releases large clouds of dust that can cover the whole planet and turn it into darkness. If that doesn't make mining operations seem near impossible, the orbit of the planet around its sun takes less than 18 hours to complete. That means that an entire year and 55 Cancun left in a single day on Earth, making landing and launching to and from the planet nearly impossible to maintain. Interestingly, it's not just the US government who are interested in space. The revolutionary founder of Microsoft that helped to lead the world into the age of information, Mr. Bill Gates, is one of the leading pioneers of the modern age. He has dedicated his nearly limitless fortune and time into forming the nonprofit organization known as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is named after himself and his wife, of whom helped to start the organization. This was in order to help tackle a lot of the problems that plague the world that we see today. Not only has this proven to be an incredible fruitful endeavor, causing dramatic changes in poor countries, as well as saving a countless amount of lives, but it's led to incredible technological breakthroughs in the realm of sustainability and industrial revolution in poverty-stricken areas. Due to this work, Bill Gates has become an expert when discussing future projections of the wealth and the effects of his work, as well as others, leading him to make astonishing accurate predictions about the future. So when Bill Gates comes out with a new idea or backs an idea, he usually makes the rounds on social media. He's most recently been backing a company by the name of Earth Now. This company is looking at putting a number of satellites that will provide live video and virtual real-time. However, it very quickly started to get criticism. The pitch for the idea stated they would create satellites that could see in any corner of the globe and provide live videos with a delay of only around a second. It seems to have piqued the interest of investors, as it's already been announced that Airbus, the SoftBank Group, and Bill Gates will be investing. The initial funding is said to focus primarily on maturing the overall system design to deliver innovative and unique real-time Earth observation services. Although it sounds like we're years away from getting this, it's actually been reported they plan to have the satellites around Earth by 2020. Some of these satellites have already been deployed, and the highly advanced satellites will be landing our rifle within a few years. As mentioned, Bill Gates is one of the investors, and over the years he has done some incredible work. But the worry here is that the company has said they will sell the service to the government and enterprise clients. It's not so much who it's going to. The worry is what will that person do with this kind of technology. Of course, things like this can have a very positive impact. For example, the company has listed a lot of potential uses for its network, some of which include catching illegal fishing in the AGS, watching hurricanes and typhoons as they develop, detecting forest fires the moment they start, and watching volcanoes the instant they start to erupt. Researchers have said it's an exciting time to be alive as many missions to space are coming up. Elon Musk and his company SpaceX has plans to land on the Red Planet. He is currently working with experts and astrophysicists that are in the process of devising new ways to replenish the Martian atmosphere. Not only that, but they also plan to repair the planet's ecosystem to make it sustainable for human life. They hope to have achieved this by 2030. If this fails, NASA have said they're looking at putting people on the Red Planet, saying that they again hope to do this by 2030. So my question to you guys is, what do you make of Space Force and their new uniform?